Welcome to our podcast. This is the end of the year. You might be listening to it some other time, but we really like to take stock in what happened over the past year, which is 2024, and talk about what we think are significant stories or events that help us think about what to do coming into the next year. So I'm going to kick it off because I have the floor. And I like my favorite story, and it actually got a lot of hits. We do the trends on LinkedIn, was on running shoes, on running shoes, which was a bit of a surprise. I fell in love with them well before the pandemic and continued to wear them. And then I started noticing that when I was at airports, when everyone went back, that, like really nice looking business people had their on shoes on. I'm like, oh, that's really interesting. And says, as I dug into it more, what was interesting about their strategy is that they really did focus on runners first. And then what they did is they kept expanding it. So they had a great technology because of this, it's cloud technology. So it made it more comfortable or different to walk and run on. And then they worked really hard on their distribution and expanded it. So the principles are the magnetic effective focus, which they did very well. And then they came out with a lot of different versions, which is what we typically call if you don't do that, it's the lukewarm tea syndrome. You have one thing for everyone. They actually did a really nice job of expanding it to meet different segments, all in the face of Nike doing this, going down. And Nike is just, they were pulling back. I think the timing couldn't have been better, because as On was expanding, Nike was pulling back and going, we're going to go direct to consumers. And they were making all of their partners that they used to have mad. And it really did impact their business, which now they have a new CEO. So looking at the full landscape, you can be in a very mature market and be able to take on the giants and just with real diligence be able to expand and kind of eat the lunch of a bigger player. So that was my favorite. Any comments on that one?
Yeah, it's a year of the Giants, some more Giants being taken down because we just spent some time, I think, one or two podcasts ago talking about Intel. And so the question is why are some of these icons, Nike, Intel, and there's others I'm sure we could think of if we spent a minute. Why are so many of them coming upon tough times and being upstaged by sometimes like new startups like On? What is going on? What is causing this to continuously happen and maybe even accelerate? What do you guys think? What's happening?
I think we said on the podcast a while ago that there seems to be a natural life cycle for market leaders, particularly in certain fashionable or technological niches. We know historically that consumer brands in terms of groceries, is Campbell's soup is Campbell's soup, and it's been there forever and it's not likely to go away. We know there's a stickiness when it comes to owning a brand category on a supermarket shelf, but all other businesses that have grown to prominence come under threat, and it's something that we've seen accelerating. There's a time when Microsoft were master of all they surveyed in terms of technology, but then Google came along, and then the cloud came along, and then Apple came along, or not in that order, but what I mean, they started to get chipped away, and gradually they fall away. We saw the same with IBM. They had a renaissance, then falling back again. So maybe there's a natural limit to how you can continue to be innovative when you're big and being managed for efficiency. So maybe that's part of it. And then the other thing is the technology and the accessibility of eyeballs and attention means that smaller players can hit bigger chunks of the market more efficiently. The barriers to entry are lower because of the way we communicate. So I guess maybe that's the accelerator, but the reality might be that you just can't hang on to it for a long period of time. Inevitably empires crumble, So maybe there's a two-parter.
I think you're right, Sean. And that's what we talked about a bit with Intel is, the mindset. And even with Southwest Airlines, their mindset is they were like in their old ways. And you usually think the activist investors, are not a good thing, but they were the ones that woke them up and said, hey, you guys, your customers want something different. They want assigned seating, and it's a win-win because you can charge more for a lot of the seats. And then they changed their CEO. So it seems like if you don't have somebody to shake it up, you end up keep going down that stodgy old mindset. So shaking things up, I think, is probably a good takeaway from that.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
any board member, worth whatever fees you're paying them should be asking the CEO at any given time, what are the three experiments that we are conducting right now that are potentially game changing, potentially abject failures as well. But what are the three things that we're pursuing to cannibalize ourselves,
Yeah.
to anticipate trends, new technologies, and making sure if somebody eats us, it's us. It doesn't seem to be happening as much as it needs to be, especially in these older established companies, and they just keep getting taken down. Sean,
Yeah.
what do you want to talk
Well,
about? Big story of the year.
Well, here, see, this is it's not really, it's going to be a big story. This is my view. This is something that's been bubbling under and hasn't really had a breakthrough outside of certain circles, and it's virtual reality, in particular the virtual reality goggles, the Meta Quest, the Apple Vision Pro. Virtual reality has been promising stuff for years, decade plus, right? Back in the day, you had augmented reality where you could project certain things onto different environments, and it was always trumpeted as this huge breakthrough. And like most things, they're oversold initially, but undersold in the long term. And I think we're on the cusp now where technologies such as virtual reality will seismically shift a lot of industries. So this is more of a trend that I think is coming and a big story that is probably about to break. But if you look at Quest and they have the Horizon meeting rooms, if you've experienced it, it's the weirdest thing. I mean, the graphics aren't great. It's like looking in a 10-year-old Sims game or something. But nevertheless, with the headset on, you're in a meeting room with other people. Now, at the moment, we're looking at each other on three little squares on the screen. In the virtual world, you actually have people in a three-dimensional space. You have spatial audio. So if Tom, you were to my right and you said something, I would hear you as if you were to my right. I can turn and look at you. I can show you things and share. It's the strangest thing, but
Would you be
when
able
it
to
moves,
ignore, would you be able to ignore me like you normally do if you wanted to?
sorry, Mary, what was that? See what I did there?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good for slamming your friends too. It's great for that. And that's the thing is like you think about what we do. We've transitioned in large part from in person to virtual. We're doing a lot more in person. Incidentally, that's the other trend, the return to in real life. The desire to get back together is another big trend that's happened this year. But we still do a fair bit of virtual teaching because people have realized it's at least on one dimension cheaper. But you add in an interactive three-dimensional space where you emulate a classroom, it suddenly becomes much more compelling to do things virtual. And that includes product demonstrations, sales meetings, getting people together with meeting with customers. When we genuinely move into a virtual world and remove the constraints of travel and time zones or time to travel, it'll shake everything up. So really my big story is one that never really hit the headlines, but I've been quietly watching it and I think we're now on the cusp of something pretty transformational in terms of virtual reality. And that's my I guess that's also my prediction for 2025 as well as my big story for 24. What do you
Cool.
guys think about that? Would you think I'm crazy? Generally, I mean.
Do you know what I
Well,
think?
yes.
Yeah, yes, generally. But I'm going to talk about. There's another story that I'm going to talk about that I think has probably crowded some of these new technologies that had been talked about quite a bit off the stage in this past year, and so it's exciting to hear that virtual reality is on the cusp of some things that are going to really make it useful because I I don't think it's been. I think it's gotten less airtime this year as AI has become the center of everybody's world.
Yeah, it's like the hype cycle, right? It's getting less hyped, but probably finding its position as being transformative. That's my view anyway. The hype, the lack of hype is probably a good thing that it will find its actual feet.
Yeah.
I think that but there is already a lot of advancements, Sean. I believe what you're saying, like especially in robotics and in the healthcare industry. I
Mm.
think there's a lot of companies that are making advances. And when Tom talks more about AI is going to like enable that more. So I think that it needed a co-pack to be able to really make it work the way it's supposed to. And so
I
that's why
think.
I am excited about what Tom's going to talk about next too.
Well,
So
you think he's going to
roll
talk
with
about AI, Mary? Is that your assumption?
I
Should we say,
yeah, I'm double down on AI, but
Tom?
he surprises me.
Pony.
He may not.
I'm a one-trick pony these days, but I can't see how there's a bigger story. I really don't. I mean, we started this year, the three of us, and we try to, set ourselves on the front edge of whatever is going on in marketing. And we were spending the preponderance of our time earlier this year talking about AI and its usefulness in content generation. And
Because
it's
of our book, by the way, our book.
because of our book, and our book came out earlier this year. We utilized AI to help write our book in record time, right? And we were literally using AI to generate our own content in, I estimate, 60% less time. So it was really something cool to talk about. But that's just, one aspect of marketing. That's really more about, I think, marketing with the small M. I think the big story is AI for marketing with the big M, actually commercialization. I think that what has been discovered here uh, pretty recently, and it's still kind of nascent, is the utilization of AI in revolutionizing strategic planning, creating marketing plans, finding differentiation, and even in commercialization. The speed with which you can do the things that used to take you parts of 4 to 6 months out of the year to develop an annual plan and all that as it's being radically reduced because AI is putting so much information, structured information at our fingertips. And so I think it's a huge story. I think it's, about to, if it not already, um, really changing the way commercial discussions are happening, sales discussions are happening. More and more, what I'm seeing is the ability for someone to use AI to get really, really smart about a prospect, their situation, their products, their services, their competitors, their standing in the marketplace, even before meeting with them. And smart salespeople are utilizing that to their benefit by showing up with ideas. There used to be this thing called a discovery meeting, right? Where we would sit down and that stuff is still really important. The questions you ask are paramount importance. But I think more and more what's happening is we're just truncating the ability to get to somewhere where you can have some ideas, some hypotheses about what direction to go on a sales call or with a marketing plan. And I just think that this is taking off right now, and it's going to continue to take off in 2025 and be huge.
What's interesting is that you're right. We're always trying to figure it out. And there was not so long ago, we were trying to figure out how to do web scraping, where we could go out and listen to what people are saying. And the idea, like when we work with companies, there's always a gap. And they sometimes they do research, sometimes they don't. But in their strategy, everyone in the room is trying to be smart and having more data and information. So that's why that web scraping seemed like it was going to be good, but it was hard to do. This is on steroids. Now you can say, what do people think about, the most absurd device that you could think of? And it searches very legitimate sources and tells you what the sources are to say, here's some things that we found. So it's just, I love being able to use AI. I actually even used it to figure out how to map walking my Christmas cards around to my neighborhood and make the delivery so it was efficient. So I'm
Lord,
I'm trying to
Lord.
figure out. Yep. I mean, and if you expand that to supply chain, if you're in supply chain, think about ways that you can even test it. You may not use it completely, but test out your theories. What's the most efficient ways to get my product from X to X if products are here, here, and here? So you really have to play with it. That's, I think, play with AI is the theme of 2025.
If ever you want an example of when AI became mainstream, it's when Mary used it to plan her Christmas card route. Then you know it's mainstream right there.
Mm, yep.
Yeah, yeah. I couldn't walk to your houses or I would have done it, but you guys are too far away. So you weren't on my list.
Yeah, we're a ways away.
Yeah, yeah. So it seems like, Tom, do you want to say any others or how do you want to wrap this up?
No, that I
No pun intended for, being the Christmas season, wrapping it up.
yeah, no, I don't. I have nothing else to say. I think we've said. I think the three of us have said a lot of words this year. So
AI.
yeah, many times we've repeated ourselves.
Yeah. Ho ho ho. AI. All
There you
right,
go.
Sean. Any wrap up?
No, I think it's there's a lot of connectivity between the all the topics we talk about are connected, but maybe not more so than the technological, the artificial intelligence, and I'll say again the virtual reality. These things that are going to change and challenge how we do things, which just increases the opportunities. So interesting year, and I think a more interesting one ahead as well. Well,
Yeah,
for
and I
those of you
just
that are listening, it's already started, so hopefully it's shaping up that way by the time you get to listen to this.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you. We love our jobs and we love the fact that we get to do what we do, and it's because we have wonderful clients. So, as a big closing thought, thank you to all the people that we get to work with and learn from.
Thank you. Happy
Sure. Thank
holidays, everybody. I am good. I think we will post this before the end of the year. We'll just send this out there. So maybe we can say happy holidays and have it be timely to everyone. So happy holidays, everyone.
Happy
Happy
holidays.